Remember, Sally, when I promised?
A romantic body horror melodrama about a filmmaker's divorce.
That's what made you did!
I lied.
This is the most important moment of Sun-woo's life. A gangster's life, one that master director Kim Jee-woon reduces to detached and violent routine.
잘했다. 항상 네가 수고하는구나.
His affection and admiration for Hee-soo, his ruthless boss's mistress, whom he's supposed to shadow and kill if he catches her cheating, has overwhelmed him.
아저씨 해결사죠.
Sun-woo is the henchman we usually know precious little about in crime stories, the second-in-command, sub-boss muscle in a Bond movie. He's straightforward, loyal, tough, and efficient, but also empty and cold. Until now. This punch-in behind Sun-woo as the beautiful strings seem to swell around him is telling in a movie that has generally presented this character's stoic qualities in close-up. For the first time, he's questioning his path. Then a sharp cutaway, propelling the rest of the narrative forward. The serene moment is over, but Sun-woo has been changed. Something conveyed through reoccurring visual symbolism of light switching on and off, a visual pun on his enlightenment and awakening. Sun-woo refuses to sell out Hee-soo even when she does have a lover as his boss guest, and his life is completely derailed. He's kidnapped and tortured and escapes by the skin of his teeth. He has to buy a gun. His wounds get worse. His cabbie is an asshole when he's just trying to get to La Dolce Vita Sky Lounge, which is an amazing location, by the way, for the final showdown. The film is full of gritty little details and bumps in the road that become what the movie is about, building the world by adding realism as opposed to Sun-woo just crawling out of a grave, going through a training montage, and showing up strapped to the nines at the final showdown. Here the details become the story in a way that upends the cliches and archetypes of the genre. Such detail also informs the ending, which at first seems to play out very poorly for Sun-woo. He keeps his honor and presumably Hee-soo escapes. But he's betrayed and eventually killed in an operatic, Scarface-esque, and somewhat surreal final shootout. Then we return to that life-changing moment and it plays out a little differently, before we find a content, cool, cocky Sun-woo shadowboxing in the window of La Dolce Vita. The tone of the score turns almost mocking, playful. Yes, it was all a dream. But where that trope is usually just one big cop-out to avoid consequences and darkness, here it is the darker ending. After the life-changing moment with Hee-soo and the music, we've watched a daydream, one played out by a very loyal gangster who is hopelessly embedded in a corrupt world without morals or mercy. We have seen Sun-woo's heart and mind move his imagination, and his imagination move the world, as the book-ending conversations between the master and the disciple explain. But imagination doesn't always lead to direct action or direct change. In fact, it often doesn't. The hopeful and good ending was Sun-woo realizing the shit world he's embedded in and rebelling against it, and that's shown to be a fantasy. Instead, he's gonna stick it out despite this beautiful moment that woke him up to what his life is missing in this endearingly carefree and talented young woman. Which, in keeping with the film's grittiness, is probably the harshest snap to reality there could ever be. He's so moved by her, he plays out this whole dream scenario in his head, but also the devil's in the details, and the film's obsession with how difficult and grueling Sun-woo's imagined escape and revenge would be is why he decides against it. A Bittersweet Life is ultimately an elegy for the paths we could have taken in life and didn't. It's about epiphanies that lead to nothing because we're too stuck in our ways and too wary of change and consequences to allow those bittersweet little escapes from the norm to be anything more than that. Bittersweet.